New Yorkers are taking into the polls. Many of have already voted. Many have voted even, I think, few days or even a few weeks ago because you were able to. Well, we still have, I think, a lot of hours left before the polls close completely and before we know the result of the election. I think it is not looking good, let's say, for the anybody not wanting a socialist to become a mayor of the biggest, freest, greatest city for a long time on Earth. And today we'll discuss part of it. We'll probably discuss it tomorrow based on what happens. Although, like I said, we might know. So large part of this episode is going to be a cope of saying, oh, maybe if this happens, maybe Mamdani doesn't win, and maybe we can actually walk out a little bit better. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll also talk about the endorsements. People might have missed it, but Trump has officially endorsed Andrew Cuomo. When I read that, I was reading the news. Oh, and Andrew Cuomo endorses, or Trump endorses Andrew Cuomo, which people were expecting, but still, it's interesting to see. It's interesting that it happened like that. Didn't it happen like today or even yesterday? Like it happened very much last minute. He might have been waiting for somebody else to drop out, but this is what we have. We have a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much, and welcome to the Daily Objective. So, James, I have a lot to go through. I have a lot of Atlas Shrugged quotes from the end of the book, but I won't bring them up. I'll leave them for tomorrow. Any thoughts before we go a bit further into this? Any opening thoughts?
Well, on the face of it, it's really a difference of degree, isn't it? Not one of kind. I mean, the left has an insatiable maw for spending and regulation, and where that insatiability doesn't look like it has any logical end other than socialism, outright socialism. So it's really the label. Although I grant you that he's advocating in degree kind of socialism, and in theory, a kind of socialism that the Democrats haven't previously advocated. I would say that it's still pretty much a difference of degree, not in kind. On the other hand, it's such a difference in degree that I have to agree with Mr. Trump that New Yorkers have no other choice. If I were a New Yorker, I would be voting for Cuomo. There was this one lady who posted on X, I just happened to see it, Cuomo killed my father, my parent, and I'm voting for him. That's how awful New York City politics have become. And I guess that's what I'd say. That's how awful New York City politics have become. People don't have principles to oppose socialism. Socialism is a word that's used to invoke feelings. Republicans have this hope that even if Mamdani, it looks like Mamdani will be elected. I mean, that crypto-based politics market predictor,
Polymarket, yeah.
Polymarket, is saying like with 92% chance of Mamdani winning. So the chances look pretty bad, but the Republicans looking for a silver lining are saying, well, see, this will now label the Democrats as far left, real live, hardcore socialist, and now we'll have something to run against. Given the fact that even Obama has had a compliment, maybe not an endorsement, but a compliment for him, and there are like the Squad and other Democrats who've endorsed Mamdani, and that will be an albatross around their neck. Insofar as he does get anything done as mayor that he's planning on doing, it will be disastrous for New York. There's no question about it. It's a difference in measurement, but a difference in measurement of such a degree that I think it matters. I would vote for Cuomo if I was still living in New York City. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, what is truly terrible to see, yeah, the fact that he is the first, if he does become mayor, he would be the first self-described socialist mayor of New York. Now we might have, especially during the FDR era, we might have had like more like sort of like people on the left, but nobody would like go out of his way to describe himself as socialist, which is a difference now. That's one thing on the economics aspect, and then of course there is um, the anti-Semitic part of it, the fact that he refuses to condemn Hamas when it comes to any of his opinions on Israel, they are not positive. And that's why I think I'm really wondering what we'll see on the part of the endorsement. Maybe we can actually switch to the endorsements because I think there's something interesting happening there. So, I don't know, a few things to point out. We also had Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, endorsing Curtis Sliwa. So that was nice to see. We had people like we said, Trump endorsing Cuomo, also Elon Musk endorsing Cuomo, which Curtis Sliwa went against. Many Republicans are actually either endorsing Cuomo or very much sort of like hinting towards, yeah, vote for Cuomo. Many have even switched endorsements who originally endorsed Sliva, now are endorsing Cuomo. And when it comes to Mamdani's side, of course, he's getting a lot of Democrats, more sort of. So I should say Cuomo is getting endorsements of some Democrats. But sort of Mamdani is getting more of the left or more of the left wing side of the Democratic Party, or even people outside of the Democratic Party that are so far of the left that are outside of Democratic Party. So like the Squad, Kamala Harris has endorsed him. Robert Reich, I don't know if you know him, he's a very
Do.
famous economist, socialist economist.
Yeah, he
Um,
worked for the Clinton
Elizabeth
administration.
Warren, Bernie Sanders. So, like, this is the kind of thing we're getting. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I sent you the video, but Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene did an episode where they mentioned Mamdani, and they're like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's talking about New York. He's not talking about Israel. He's not talking about the Jews." So even them are sort of very much
Oh,
hinting. And we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican right now in Congress, and Tucker Carlson, a long time Republican. So I'm wondering if what we'll see happening, since we do have this weird thing of like now Republicans are apparently for Democrat. Now Andrew Cuomo is running as independent because of course he couldn't run as a Democrat. But we have this interesting thing of something I was. This was my prediction. Like hundreds of years from now, when like objectivism becomes more popular, we'll have like the Republican and Democrats will like unite to fight the objectivists. This is my like dream into the future. But what we're actually seeing is this interesting of sort of moderate Democrats, if there is such a thing, and Republicans basically uniting to oppose sort of the more left-wing part of the Democratic Party, and you even have the more crazy parts of the right sort of uniting with the crazy parts of the left to go with Mamdani. So I'm wondering if we'll see in the next decade sort of switch from the Republican Democrat spectrum to something like populist, anti-populist, or some kind of yeah, like the sort of radicals versus the moderates instead. And that comes to the lack of really answer to people like Mamdani, right? Like
right.
who goes to the polls and like, oh, I'm excited for politics. I'm gonna vote for Andrew Cuomo.
That's really the problem. The, enthusiasm thing. Then when looking at the party though, it's only people like Senator Fetterman, who is pretty rare. I mean, he and maybe a couple of other Democrats have actually come out and actively overtly opposed Mamdani. Now that's interesting. It's the non-committal stuff. It's the leading Democrats who aren't really taking a firm stand. Schumer, Senator Schumer, is the Democratic leader in the Senate, and he's a senator from New York. And he's not taking a firm like Fetterman is, an anti-Mamdani position. Just in terms of context, though, I would urge people to bear in mind the wider context here. It is not only an off year election like next year's congressional elections will be, it's an off year election within, it's only a year after the big presidential election that happens every 4 years. And so it tends to have lower turnout. It tends to have turnout that is opposed to the party in power. And these are the areas where there are elections: New York City's mayor, New Jersey statewide races like for governor, Virginia statewide races like for governor. Those tend to be blue states, certainly hard leaning blue states anyway. And the city of New York is ultra blue. So you would think that all the wind, because it's an off-year election and the party in power is Republican, plus the fact that they're Democrat strongholds in effect, that context should be borne in mind. It's how close the Republicans can make it, it seems to me, in these races. That is the thing to look at. I don't have much, belief that the Republicans could pull off major victories today, even with California and Prop 50, which is the redistricting proposition. That's the thing that's on the ballot in California here. I think the Democrats have to be favored in all of these elections, just for the circumstantial reasons I just named. Historically speaking, this really favors the Democrats. These are areas that dramatically favor the Democrats. So really, again, it's a question of degree. By how much will the Republicans make it an interesting horse race? Now, all of that is ignoring the basic fundamental principles here. Now, you're talking about his Islamicist nature. It's clear that Mamdani is anti-Semitic. What did he say? He wants to reshape New York in the fashion of his religion, Islam. I think that says a lot right there. His position on the Hamas protests in New York City and Columbia, for example, tells you everything. And the fact that you've got the anti-Semites on the right. Of course, the anti-Semites on the right have become totally soft on socialism. They don't have a principled opposition to socialism, but they are increasingly anti-Semitic. So your Tucker Carlsons and stuff, they will have a nice word. I mean, he's talking about issues, talking about affordability. When you're talking about affordability and socialism, of course, the two don't go, things are really expensive when they're free, right? To paraphrase a previous critic of socialism. So it's the principles involved. Socialism is immoral. Socialism is not the answer to the cost of living in America today. And it's a failure of both parties to distinguish themselves from socialism that sets themselves up for this moment. It really does. There has to be a principled opposition to socialism. There has to be a principled opposition to Islamism. But there is no such thing, not even on the right, in a principled way. So the slide into true Marxism and Islamism should hardly surprise anybody. They're the ones who are the most consistent. But we're looking at, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a rise of socialism on the left, an increased dramatic rise in socialism. 1 in 3 young Democrats thinks that violence is sometimes okay, according to polls. We're talking about something really disturbing happening on the left, but we're also talking about a rise of Christian nationalism with increasingly anti-Semitic, pro-socialist features on the right. So both the Christian nationalism on the right and the increased socialist Islamism on the left are both disturbing trends, but two sides of the same fundamental coin. If you want to oppose this, what we need to do is get better ideas out there, better principles out there, ones that understand the importance of liberty, economic liberty, the economic realities of socialism, and the moral implications of socialism, a defense of property, a defense of individual rights. That we really don't see consistently. And that is as much the right's fault as anyone's. They're the ones who claim to be opposed to socialism in principle. They are not.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. I mean, you mentioned people like John Fetterman sort of standing up to crazy parts on the left, and I'm sure you've also seen the story from the Heritage Foundation standing behind Tucker Carlson,
Yikes.
right? So you have, and I did an episode on this. They said, we'll stand by our friends or something like that. We won't abandon our friends towards the left. And the question becomes sort of like, okay, so what are your actual values uh, without like hating the left? And the similar thing on the left, right? The fact that Democrats are not denouncing their socialist counterparts, that they're socialist parts of them, and in this case are happy to endorse them. The fact that they don't come out to it's the same thing, right? Both sides want to fight against the other side so hard that they accept pretty much anybody they can. And what happens after that? When it comes to sort of who is more powerful. The fact is, when you accept a certain principle, a certain fundamental, whoever is more consistent, that's the one who wins. He is the one. I mean, what is the view? I mean, just look at the way people talk about Cuomo and the way people talk about Mamdani, right? Mamdani is this young socialist, idealist. He Nobody uses idealist, but they mean that, right?
I
Somebody
hate
who's
that.
willing to stand for the issue, somebody who's willing to fight for us, who's not going to bow down to Israel. Even that I've heard. And what is the major support behind Cuomo? It's like, oh, we just don't like Mamdani. So what for our compromising guy? What for the
Right.
guy? As you mentioned during the like many people mentioned the COVID, right? Vote for the guy who like killed all people, whose policies actually caused deaths. That's the guy we're going for, because we do not want. And opposition to Mamdani is proper, but when you accept the same principle, because again, it's not like Cuomo is some kind of um like actual
Well,
answer
exactly.
to Mamdani. He's again, I think there is a fundamental difference between even people like Mamdani and Cuomo, but still, nobody is excited to vote for Cuomo.
No, it's an oppositional. That's what makes Mamdani stand out as a positive thing. He has asserting policies that address the concerns, let's put it that vaguely and broadly, of New York City residents, concerned about affordability, concerned about the mess that, frankly, socialist type policies have gotten New York into. So they don't perceive that it's, socialism. Going back to your example of the New Deal and FDR, that sure, the intellectuals in the 1930s were all a bunch of, in America, all a bunch of communists and socialists, pretty much. But FDR sold it as, I'm saving capitalism. I'm saving capitalism with a whole bunch of Marxist type proposals like Social Security, and that's the way it's cast here. So that the difference in degree is what really is what we're fighting over, and we're buying time. In other words, I'm fighting for the worst, the least evil, so that we can have the least damage. If any of the candidates are going to cause damage, who will cause the least damage? If that's your emergency triage kind of thinking, then you're going to be perceived as being the capitalist here because you're opposing the idealistic socialist. But the idealistic socialist is going to look so much better. He's not some corrupt politician like Cuomo. He's not someone with all these issues, like Cuomo. And he's not this, leave bad taste in my mouth, but I'll punch it for Cuomo because we have no choice, to use Trump's word, when he's endorsing Cuomo. We have no choice. Is that going to get voters to be enthusiastic and get them out to vote and turn out is all important in this off year election? I don't think so. And I think that's why Ayn Rand was completely correct. It's the person with the morally consistent position, even if it's dead wrong, even if it's consistently wrong, even if it's more consistently wrong. The person with the more principled, the more consistent position will tend to win. And look at how much more attractive Mamdani looks to the non-ideological New York City voter than, say, the major alternative, Cuomo.
Yeah,
I would urge
and
people to read, Atlas Shrugged, but I would also urge people to read Ayn Rand's Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. There you will get the moral and practical case for capitalism, which is an unknown ideal. Capitalism is not the welfare state. Capitalism is not government subsidizing business or owning parts of business like Trump is doing. Capitalism is not the system of tariffs, for sure. Capitalism is a system of individual rights, including property rights. And until and unless Americans get that squared away in their heads, and of course, all of higher education has been pushing Americans in the opposite direction. This is the sort of the range of choices that we're going to be given. It's a difference of degree, not in kind. We used to have the difference back during the Red Scare between reds and pinks, right? Your socialists are sort of, and sympathizers are kind of, fellow travelers are pink. Your real commies are red. Well, here you could sort of say that on the color spectrum, it's really a quantitative difference, really, right? And so I guess you could here say the Republicans are not capitalist. Let's call that true blue. The Republicans are pick a good color, orange right now for the Republicans, versus the pink that are the standard Democrats versus the red that is Mamdani. But there are really differences in degree. But those differences in degree can be, you can chunk off and on the spectrum and say, okay, well, that's more orange, that's more pink, that's more red. But that's really what we're looking at. Not a difference in kind, but a difference in degree.
Yeah, and that's why sort of on the other side we've seen, because I've been trying to sort of understand the rise of Trump, and I think what you see is people are looking for some sort of an answer. Like the worst thing you can do in America right now, I think, is say that things are fine. In some ways, things are fine, but in many
Some
ways,
ways, things are better than ever. In
yeah,
some
yeah, but
ways, things are better than ever, technologically, da, 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 da. But politically, they've been going down a sewer for decades. I mean,
yeah, and so
we
people.
complain about Trump, but a lot of what Trump is doing is just Obama retread. We've been heading down this path of increased executive power. Both sides are heading into a fascist convergence, as I've said many times. So, politically speaking, culturally speaking, we're heading in the opposite direction from both ends of the political spectrum, from anything good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people are trying to look for an answer. That's why, person like Bernie Sanders can get reelected after every election. That's why I think Mamdani is somebody that is gaining a lot of support. And whenever you have anybody who says they are a socialist or democratic socialist and they run anywhere, everybody's like really excited about it, even if they don't happen to win. Because I think it's still sort of unpopular among general population. Like, just remember, even if Mamdani wins, unless it really turns out much worse than we expect, he's gonna win with plurality. He's probably gonna win with like 45%, 46% of the votes, maybe even less, depending again how it comes at the end. And large part of it is going to be sort of I think the mayor New York City mayoral election have like 20 to 30% people who actually come and vote, and now it's projected to be like 40 or upwards of 40%, which large part of it is just people being excited for Mamdani. So large part of New Yorkers are not for Mamdani. It's simply that's where the excitement is. And I think similarly, on the other side with Trump, right? It's the fact is that many people on the right were simply dissatisfied with what the Republican Party was offering. Here was this guy who was offering something different, something new, something unique, talking about the greatness of America. He might not understand it, but he is talking about it, talking about that things are bad and things are gonna be better with him, and people gravitate towards it, and that's I think what fundamentally you need. You need a positive message. You cannot excite somebody with saying, things. I'm not good. I'm just less compromising than the other guy, or I am just less radical than the other part. But you don't want radicalism, so don't go for that guy. And we can see that that can make a difference. Javier Milei just won, or his party rather, just won the legislative election. This was something many people were surprised about, but he is somebody not only putting out a positive message, talking about that, he is going to actually fix Argentina, but also actually managing to tell people like it is, not being like telling people, hey, it's gonna suck. But
The
maybe when we work
authenticity,
together, we get out of it.
authenticity, that word they use, authenticity.
Yeah,
Mamdani is
and that's
authentic.
what
So are
and
you,
that's what
Mr.
people
Trump.
say about both Mamdani and Trump, right? They're
Right.
authentic.
But one can be, as Millet shows, authentic and have radically different principles, radically different approach to things. That is true. And appeal to people simultaneously with your authenticity. It's a question of what you're authentic to, right? Uh, and that's a question of philosophical principles.
Yeah, and fundamental, I think that's what we're lacking right now is somebody who's willing to. I mean, we of course have people like the American Capitalist Party, Mark Pellegrino, the co-founder of it. I believe, I'm not sure if you know more. I believe they have a candidate running somewhere.
They do, I think, in Georgia. I'm not. officially
Yeah, it might be.
affiliated with the party, but I believe they've got
Oh,
a
okay.
candidate running in the state of Georgia.
Okay, maybe just officially endorsed by the party. But yeah, I think fundamentally this is, it's never, I don't think you can wait for the culture to be ripe for this new cultural revolution or this new politics. I think you need to offer people the option, and you need to believe in people's rationality to go for actually the actual essence of America. Similarly, if we go to the past, it's not like we've waited until culture was ripe for the American Revolution. It kind of went all together, right? It's you published the maybe you can remind me of the book Thomas Paine's
Common sense?
uh, Common Sense. That people were ready for it, and people accepted that and understood why they should be united against
Well,
or with this new idea.
I would say that the English and French and Scottish Enlightenments had really dramatically changed Western culture in the 18th century. So that are people ripe for it? Yeah, there's Locke and Montesquieu and Adam Smith and Thomas Paine fits right into that, and Thomas Jefferson fits right into that mode of new liberal thinking that had emerged during the Enlightenment. So culture does matter. On the other hand, I agree with you that these things come simultaneously. Um, uh, it, and it will begin as a trickle, and when it begins, and hopefully gain steam as it goes downhill and gathers into itself into a river. Um, and, um, it's hard to say. Is there enough of the American sense of life among certain groups of people, independents, Republicans, even some Democrats, that you can blow on the embers, to change my metaphor, and create a fire in that regard? Well, it is frankly Trump that is the disheartening thing in this regard. It's not as though the Republicans have been getting any better. It's the Republicans have been getting just worse and worse. If the Bushes were bad, Trump is still worse. And so it's like we're going down the stair steps in a progressive way, so that there's really no major alternative to the increasingly socialist or woke left voices out there. It is the progressive woke left voices that are gaining strength in the Democratic Party, and it's the pro-capitalism parts of the Republican Party, insofar as there ever still were, that have lost steam. So, putting my finger in the wind, it doesn't feel like a propitious moment, at least in America, like it is perhaps in Argentina, where the lessons of socialist failure have been battered into people's heads. The commies are wrong, the Peronists are wrong. We need a real new alternative. And I think maybe the people of Argentina, just through practical experience, are in a different place than my fellow countrymen here in North America are.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch, sort of, after the Trump's third term, it's going to be interesting. I shouldn't joke about it, but it's kind of looking that way. But because something we have seen, like, because
I'll make a
I mean,
prediction. Trump won't
sure,
run
sure.
for
Uh, what?
I'll make a prediction. Trump won't run for a third term. I think he's laying
I
the
would bet you money on that. I'll take a,
Oh,
if you
okay.
want to make like,
Let's
I'll,
do it right here. Let's make a
it,
bet.
but how,
I'll bet you dinner at any restaurant you want in Southern California the next time you're out here.
okay, and how do we define the Trump running for a third term? Because
Um,
it's gonna
that's a
be a
good question.
unique. He would have to do it in like a unique way. Maybe participating in the Republican convention. Because like technically he could participate in the Republican convention without
I'll
without.
make the bet so broad and easy for you. He won't even run in the Republican primary.
Okay, sure. We can take that. Yeah. So yeah, dinner and yeah, I'll take you also to dinner. So yeah, here we have a bet. But yeah, sort of something separate I wanted to say is when something we've seen with the Republican Party is like uh, think of like a Republican who's like anti-tariff, anti like the immigration stuff Trump has been doing, like the ICE stuff, and like a few more things, and it's like, well, that's not a Republican almost. Like that, like like I cannot find like a person who would like call himself like an actual official who would call himself Republican in that regard. So yeah, that's like an interesting thing that we've seen happening that both because of Trump, many Republicans have become sort of like the anti-Trumpers, right? I don't know if you know the magazine The Bulwark, right? I think it is sort of like conservative, but it is like hardcore anti-Trump.
Yeah,
Uh, and now
totally.
you have let's say Republicans like being okay with a Democrat like Andrew Cuomo just to not get Mamdani. So yeah, it's interesting. The next decades are going to be interesting when it comes to sort of the shift of the Republican Democratic sort of duopoly and what will happen with it. Will we
You know,
see more of, yeah,
the Supreme Court might do the Republican Party a huge favor and declare most of Trump's tariffs unconstitutional. They might do the Republican Party a big favor and say that Trump's approach to blowing, boats out of the water in the Caribbean is a step too far. Let us hope that the Supreme Court can rein in some of the worst aspects of the new right, and that will serve as perhaps just a real world course correction for them. They claim to be the party that advocates the Constitution over the Democrats, but you heard Trump. I mean, it's not in the Constitution, the filibuster. It sure isn't. It's a Senate rule that was developed early on in our history. But when you've got Trump out there saying, get rid of the filibuster so we can end the government lockdown, he's just as anti principled as any of the most shallow minded Democrats who got rid of the filibuster with judicial nominations only to be bitten in the rear end by it. So there could be some practical things that pull the Republicans back to sanity, but force them back to sanity. Really, the long term solution is to have a principled educate a policy, an educational approach that will teach the American people the immorality and the impracticality of socialism, a truly evil idea.
well, with that, well, first one qualification: if Trump doesn't actually live to next election, do we
Oh,
just void the bet,
I
or
guess we just void.
yeah?
Yeah, that'll be a draw.
Uh, or maybe we can discuss if there was some. Although I don't think we'll probably won't know if he actually is intending to run for a third term until like the sort of last
And I
minutes
think
when
he'd
it
have
can
to lay a
happen.
lot of groundwork to get that off the ground.
Yeah, and I think he already is. So that's why I think midterms are going to be very decisive in the way it's going to go. Um,
That's an interesting thought. The fact that we're even discussing whether Trump is going to run it for a third term when it's clearly not permitted under our Constitution is an astonishing discussion even to be having, isn't it?
yeah.
A sad
Well,
commentary on our time that we're even having the bet, isn't it?
well, you know, many people would want him to run, as he says, and he still has
Yeah.
people like Steve Bannon who go out of their way to say, no, he's gonna run for a third term. It's
Yeah.
we'll figure
I
it
mean,
out.
there are definitely Trump supporters who want him to do so, and Trump has obviously been exploring exotic, weird interpretations of the amendment in question as a way of getting through there. So, to the fact that we're even having this bet or having this discussion is a sad commentary on our times, isn't it?
It's gonna be I'm gonna look up the bet also on Polymarket if somebody is betting for Trump third term and what are the percentages. But
That would be
uh,
interesting.
with that, James, any last thoughts on well,
No,
I guess prediction. Do you think he will actually? I should mention because we did mention the poll market. It's his 92%, but the result should be that he wins by 2 points. That's what poll market says. So I
yeah,
think the biggest part is gonna be people who actually, it's one thing to say in the poll, yeah, I'm gonna vote for Mamdani, then come to the thing and I don't know what they do in New York election. Do they circle or do they cross out? But they actually, cast your vote for that one specific person, or even people going to vote for Sliva, saying maybe I should go for Cuomo because I would. I know Sliva won't be, and we might at least get Andrew Cuomo.
Well, before we get all depressed, do look at the numbers. And that would be my final point here. You're right. Mamdani is likely to win, but likely to win in a plurality. And the question is, how close will Cuomo get? How much will the forces consolidate behind Cuomo? And it's that way with the races in Virginia and New Jersey, and even in California, frankly. The thing to look at, it seems to me, is not who wins or loses, because it should be Democrats all the way, based on history, based on the places where it's happening. And so the question is, how much solace can non-Marxists take from the election? That will be based on how the differences, look at the numbers. How big do the Democrats win today?
So I looked it up on Polymarket. Trump announced for third term is at 6%, but 6% by the end of this year. So
Wow.
6% chance that by the end of this year he will
By the
announce
end of
third
this
term.
year, this first year. Wow. Okay. They usually wait
I
2
can
years before they.
yeah, I cannot find for the next upcoming years, but maybe we'll see it. But
Yeah.
and at some point the chance jumped to 20%. There might have been something he was pointing towards, but yeah, and yeah, Bonnie mentions in the chat he does have Trump 2028 hats on his
Oh
website, on his
yeah,
official website he is selling them. So
I'm aware of
he
that,
definitely,
Bonnie. And that
yeah.
is the disturbing thing, the fact that we're even discussing it when it's plainly unconstitutional, um, is a sad thing. But look at the margins today, like I say. Look at the margins in New Jersey and Virginia, even more perhaps than New York, which may be a lost cause for the moment. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that New Yorkers will have to learn the hard way. And they may not even. I mean, it depends on how much Mamdani can really get through his policies. But insofar as he does, it could be an object lesson, a painful one that I would not recommend we do as a political strategy, but a painful one for New Yorkers.
Yeah, and so we're probably gonna be also talking about it tomorrow, especially when we have sort of more information. Especially, I think something interesting might be where the Jewish vote went, where we know where it's not gonna go, but sort of how much is it not gonna go there is still going to be a question. So we'll see each
Isn't it
other.
fascinating? It's not Brooklyn or Staten Island. Staten Island's the one place that votes Republican, the borough in New York. Brooklyn tends to be very, very Democrat, and has a large Jewish population. It's really the Upper East Side. How do upper middle class New Yorkers vote today? Very interesting, right? Educated, you know, comfortably off New Yorkers are the ones who nominated Mamdani. Are they going to get him over the finish line today? Who is the one? Who are the ones, if anyone, gets him over the finish line today? That'll be interesting too. I agree.
Well, so that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. I might stay up until like 5 a.m. today just to see the results, although I might just go to bed.
Get some
We'll
rest.
see. But thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the Daily Objective, and the reality show should be also on. Thank you, and bye bye.
Be well.